I talked to you, Roger, at length the last 2 days about this. I don't want to speak for you, but obviously Trump was smart to come out and say, hey, Ted Cruz is robbing me. The media said, oh, how dare you? The delegates are allowed to ignore you. He said it was a fraud. The people said it was a fraud. We rallied. They had to back off. Sanders didn't. He had it stolen from him. So if she already stole the nomination, I think he just points out we have a fraudulent nominee here, and this should be a referendum, and he should reach out really hardcore to the Sanders supporters, as you've been doing for really a year, seeing this coming. You've got the floor, Roger Stone.
Yeah, Alex, I agree with your analysis. I mean, if you're a true progressive, you can't possibly vote for Hillary Clinton. She's a crony capitalist and a neocon. She wants to rush off to the next war. Hopefully, her financial backers think with Russia. She has a terrible record on civil rights. She's done nothing for black people other than help incarcerate record numbers of them for nonviolent crimes. In Bill Clinton's 1994 crime bill, which has destroyed an entire generation of young African-American men. This was because Dick Morris and Hillary Clinton convinced Bill that he needed this rightward shift to get reelected. So this is part of his legacy. This is what we're dealing with. So I think she can be defeated. I am convinced that they are looking more and more at the option of stealing it. This isn't going their way. The fact that the Russians will, or whoever, it was going to continue to drop truth bombs on the American people in the form of their own documents. Alex, these are like the Watergate tapes. The Clintons have cut their own throat because they assumed that no one would ever see all of their secret, illegal maneuverings. This is why they use the unsecured server, to hide the very things that I suspect someone, most likely the Russians, is going to drop on the American people, like truth bombs, throughout this election. She could raise $1 billion, and it may not matter. Trump may beat her like a drum as he pounces on and helps further public knowledge of every one of the bombshells that is coming. This is get ready and strap in your seatbelt. I
was about to say, he came out, as you know, and said, I'm taking the gloves off, which means he's leaning more towards our camp, and very, very exciting. And we've got Reuters going back in polls that Trump was winning and changing them directly out of 1984 with the memory hole or the Soviet Union. I mean, we've got Google delisting him. They are pulling out the stops, Roger.
Well, when I met in Cleveland with Nigel Farage, he gave me a number of very salient observations and tips about how to reach blue-collar voters, working-class voters, union member voters.
That's the founder and a former leader of UKIP that had the British exit.
Exactly. The man who orchestrated that blow against globalism in the Brexit vote. And I think Donald Trump knows how to ring these chimes. In other words, I think he is going to make real inroads. These are precisely the kind of voters who were not offended by the photos of Melania and Trump. In fact, they probably like them, at least the men. Secondarily, these are the people who I think already dislike and distrust Hillary Clinton. And I think they're going to be key voters in this bloc. The pollsters are going to show her ahead and try to create a sense of hopelessness about Trump.
Sure, that's it. It's all about a fake perception.
Right.
So they're just going to put out fake polls. So how do we counter that?
Well, just say you don't believe them. Constantly say you don't believe them. Trump will denounce polls, as you know, when they're bogus and rigged.
Well, I mean, what about this unprecedented move? Like, I've got the article right here where even mainline pollsters are saying this is, quote, professional malpractice of Reuters to go back in time and change polls and then just give Hillary all of the undecided people. I mean, this is total rigging nakedly.
Well, and the other thing that we have discussed is the fact that we have noticed a discrepancy between polls that use a live questioner and polls that are automated where you use your keypad on the phone like a computer. Punch 1 for Trump, push 2 for Clinton, push 3 for undecided. Trump always runs 3 to 5 points better in the latter. There is a hidden vote for Donald Trump. It's not going to show up in any poll. If you are a middle-class voter, and you get a call from someone you don't know,
Of course.
saying, who are you voting for? You're not going to tell them because you don't want people to know.
Absolutely. I want to ask you the $64 trillion or zagillion dollar question, Roger Stone. Every liberal I talk to says they're voting third party or they're voting for Trump because Hillary stole it. We have real trouble. This isn't hyperbole. All over the country, even in Democrat areas, finding people that support Hillary. Now, I go through super elite areas. Yeah, there's some Hillary sides, but that's it. Like Tarrytown here in Austin. So it looks like everybody's just been beaten over the head and is scared, but won't say they're voting for Trump. And I think there's a massive, closeted Trump voter percentage. What do you think?
5 to 7 points, depending on the state, much closer in others, but it's out there. It's a factor. Jill Stein fighting into Hillary, particularly given new life by the revelations that they screwed Bernie. I mean, Debbie Wasserman Schultz didn't even use the Vaseline. And then she's immediately rewarded. That's how brazen the Clintons are. I think Sanders put up a valiant race. I would have hit Hillary on some slightly different issues than he did.
Sure. So obviously we reach out. I mean, Trump continues to reach out and say, look, you got frauded. You got ripped off. Vote for me.
Yes, there is no question. So I think that the point here is an obvious one. If they'll steal it from Bernie, they'll try to steal it from Trump. And where will the stealing occur? It'll occur in the big city machines where they still have control. I'd watch Chicago because Trump could win Illinois. Trump is neck and neck in Illinois. Even without them turning out every vagrant.
So it's just like Kennedy robbing Nixon again. It's going to go to Illinois.
Yeah, it could. But that state shouldn't even be, given recent history, should not be even on our list as winnable. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Pennsylvania should be out of reach. Trump is doing so well among those blue-collar, working-class people, the people who pay their taxes and don't attend riots and aren't protesting, and who revere the flag and whose children serve in our military. Those voters who went for Bill Clinton, by the way, in big numbers. Those voters like Trump, and therefore in the western part of the state, perhaps the most democratic part of the state. Trump is doing better than anyone.
All right, I'm gonna totally put you, when we come back, I'm not even talking next segment. I'm going to put you in there the next segment. I want you to lay it all out, Roger Stone. Stay with us. We're also going to take a few phone calls in the final segment, 877-789-ALEX. Phone's now open.
Hey, Chelsea. Has your mother ever told you that you're the daughter of Webb Hubbell and not Bill Clinton?
Every day in the news, I see themes that emerge that aren't from the talking points of the social engineers, but are from the people. And I'm watching the calls just pour in for the next segment. And almost every one of them talks about martial law, a civil emergency, race war being launched to try to cancel or scuttle the election. What other false flags might Hillary pull? How do you steal an election? There's more than one way to skin a cat. Roger Stone's our guest. Get the new shirt that his team designed. We are printing and are a distributor of at InfoWarsStore.com. It's 20% off on all the apparel right now, 40% off on nutraceuticals, storable foods. This mega sale ends tonight. It helps fund our operation, but these are amazing products everybody needs. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com takes you right to the supplements and nutraceuticals, or call toll-free. We can answer all your questions and take your call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 888-253-3139 to call and order, or ask any questions, 888-253-3139. Okay, Stone, we got 9 minutes left of the segment. You've got the floor. How do they steal an election? How do we block it? What do we do? And other things that are key.
Well, Alex, I got to tell you that, I've been working some long hours, and I did go out for a little celebration when Trump pulled ahead in the national polls, but I did some of your liver cleanse the next morning, and it got me back on track. Right now, to be honest with you, without Soul Brother #1, James Brown, opening the segment and popping 2 Brain Force, I wouldn't be able to do this at all.
I know. I got to say, you send me text messages at 2 a.m. We talk at 3 a.m. At 7 a.m. I'm getting messages. You are literally pouring out your essence in this. You were telling me privately, I don't know if I can say this, but you said you've never put this much energy into a campaign. This is history.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, and I'm waking up in the middle of the night and making notes of things that I just thought of. So, and I think Trump is doing great. You're absolutely right. You see, the whole criticism of this Muslim father that they put up at the convention is he has pointed out a truth that Islam is a culture that does not respect, indeed abuses women. So they've all said, "Oh, how can he say that?" But it's true. Unfortunately, the mother probably wasn't allowed to speak because it's not allowed in their culture. I feel very badly about these people's son. I honor anybody who served his country, but they should realize that their son died because of radical, hateful, murderous Islamic.
Yeah, and look, you're at the so-called liberals claiming they're empowering women. I said I would interrupt, but you're bringing her up there wearing a frickin' headdress. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and now what you see is kind of an interesting juxtaposition. You see, it used to be that Republicans were the anti-communist, hard foreign policy hardliners. What was the charge against Barry Goldwater? That he would get us into a war with the Russians. Trump is now being attacked for being close to the Russians, which is ironic in view of Hillary and Bill selling their souls and U.S. foreign policy decisions like control of uranium to the very oligarchs who are friendly with Putin. Who's close to Putin? They're close to Putin. Donald Trump's never met Putin.
That's what's crazy.
But like Nixon, maybe Trump is the peacemaker that Putin wants to deal with. Maybe these guys can reach peace. It's obvious to me, Putin knows her well. He's read her emails. He knows she's a lying crook and he can't trust her in any deal that he tries to make. Let's recognize the pressures he's got. He's got a right wing too. They want war. He'd like to have prosperity for his country. Now, he plays a tough hand in foreign policy, and I don't love this.
Well, that's what Putin keeps saying. He says that Obama and Hillary break every deal they make.
Well, he's out there fighting ISIS. We ought to be fighting ISIS more effectively at this point, ISIS having been created by George W. Bush's policies and armed by Hillary Clinton. Now we have to deal with them. So this whole argument that Trump is too close to Putin, this is reverse McCarthyism. I see what Putin sees. He's taking the measure of both candidates.
Well, sure, Hillary wants to make money on both sides of a war. Trump wants prosperity. The Russians would rather de-escalate this military buildup.
Look, I think the easiest way to go to the most important thing I know you want to talk about, and I agree with you. I had a terrific interview the other day with Milo. At
Breitbart on election fraud. It's excellent.
Yeah, no, I think you, the first person to pinpoint this. The Clintons are capable of stealing this, and therefore I think Trump needs to definitively say, if there's any evidence whatsoever of voter fraud, if an analysis shows the swing between my private polls and the final outcome points out fraud, be clear. I will challenge your being sworn in. I will have my people march on Washington. We will block your inauguration. You're in court. We will seek to, certainly. I think he needs to be very clear.
We're not rolling over.
Unlike Nixon, who sadly chose not to challenge the outcome of the 1960 elections, largely because, unlike today, there was no paper trail. There was no way to do a recount in Texas. Lyndon Johnson had all the ballots burned within hours of the election. You couldn't recount Dallas County. The 95 Nixon Lodge votes they threw out that would have given Texas to the Republicans, those ballots were burned. So
what do you make of this delusion where they're saying they're going to try to get Cruz people to vote for nobody or somebody else or a third party to throw it to Hillary in Texas?
All 7 Cruz people? I hope Rick Perry challenges Cruz. I would go out and raise money for Rick Perry if he would challenge Cruz. Rick Perry would be a... No,
I agree. Rick Perry is way better. At least he's a real Texan.
He's a real conservative, too, when it comes to economics. I don't agree with Rick Perry.
No, he did good. He did do some... I agree. Compared to... I hear you. I would support Rick Perry over Cruz.
Not even close. And hopefully Donald Trump will encourage him in that endeavor. So I don't know what Cruz people you're talking about. Red-blooded American Texans.
Well, I'm talking about the Star Telegram and others are pushing this after non-endorsement, will Texans stand by U.S. Senator Ted Cruz?
No, first of all, there aren't that many of them. He's hurt his standing in Texas very badly by being a duplicitous.
Oh, I agree. It just shows how desperate they are. And
Texans don't like liars. This guy gave his word. He signed a public pledge. So there's no dispute. It's all about Ted. He can kiss his U.S. Senate seat goodbye, if you ask me.
I think there's a landslide for Trump. I know you don't want to be too optimistic, man. Every liberal I talk to all over the country, they go, yeah, I'm going to go third party or Trump. They're just scared to say it.
I must tell you, Alex, I think you have to not underestimate the Clintons' organizational ability to turn out every vagrant, every homeless person, every illegal, and they're even in court in California and other places. They're in New York. They now want to vote illegals.
No.
They don't pay taxes.
So that's what Trump says. The Democrats are trying to legalize illegals to vote. I mean, it's fraud right there.
Yes. So Trump won't stand for any of that. You could have a constitutional crisis.
Well, that's what's beautiful is that he's got the huevos. He challenged Cruz and the Republicans trying to steal it. They rolled over. I mean, do they understand that Trump is going to stand against them?
I don't think they've yet figured out that they're not going to be able to bury Goldwater Rising. Their whole attitude is that, particularly as things get worse for them, that they don't want to refute Trump on any of the issues, trade, immigration, jobs. They're just going to try to destroy him. In other words, they'll never respond.
Sure. What about the debates? I mean, they know he'll kill her, so now they're trying to hide him politically. They're trying to hide it now under NFL games.
Yeah, I don't think that is going to work very well. The Stephanopoulos is the Chuck Todds want to nitpick Trump on whether he got a letter from the NFL. Pointless. They did this exact same thing to Bernie. Have we forgotten that they scheduled the early Democratic debates during games so that nobody would watch them?
If Bernie supporters don't vote for Trump, they are... how could they all not, just for the integrity of our elections?
Well, first of all, I don't think they will. Some will. Obviously, Bernie's hard left votes were the true...
Then that puts him way over the top. I mean, they were the majority of the voters for Hillary.
But Trump only needs about a third of Bernie's voters to win.
I'm telling you, it all hinges on Bernie, like you were saying a year ago. Roger Stone, StoneZone.com, the T-shirt, Clinton, with the word rape under it. Get it out there. This is such a time to be alive. InfoWarsStore.com, 20% off on all apparel, 40% off on nutraceuticals. It ends tonight at midnight. I'm very humbled by our audience. I'm very humbled by our listeners. I'm very humbled by all your prayers. And I am very blessed to be here. And I'm very thankful for this position. Don't thank me. This is a real blessing. History's happening right now. You can feel the energy level rising. And whether Trump wins or loses, this is the animating contest of liberty. Roger Stone of StoneZone.com's our guest. I want to race through your calls now. Rich in Texas, then Frank in New York. Rich in Texas, thank you for calling. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Hey, Roger. It was a pleasure to talk to both of you. I just wanted to make a quick comment. I flew to Cleveland to see you guys at your Freedom Speech rally.
Thank you.
What an amazing event. It was just so awesome to see those kinds of people gathering together, the open carry that they had, the Hillary for Prison shirts, and it was just an amazing atmosphere.
Yeah, it's crazy to see a town with tens of thousands on the streets wearing Hillary for Prison shirts. It totally scared the establishment. Great point. And I see in the comments here, because we don't screen your calls, folks can add a comment. It says, your whole church has switched from supporting Cruz to Trump. Can you tell us about that?
I sure can. Let me tell you, believe it or not, I go to Cornerstone Church, here, Pastor Hagee's church here in Texas, and they were totally supportive of Cruz. I'd say 30% at the front was for Donald Trump, but they are completely on board with Donald Trump now.
That's great. Has Hagee switched?
I can tell you his son has. Matthew has.
Well, good for them. I mean, the guy's a great preacher. I disagree with some of the stuff he says. I mean, the guy's a great orator, but I just hate the fact that he gets so neocon. Amazing call. Roger, that's what I'm hearing from everybody, Roger?
Yeah, this is, again, the media trying to make trouble. Ted Cruz, like all the Republican candidates who ran against Donald, including Jeb, are invited to speak at the convention on the condition that they will support the ticket. They're not even required to use the word endorse. They can call for Republican victory from the top to the bottom. They can say they're voting Trump-Pence. Walker, Christie, Rubio, all proved to be honorable men. They're allowed to speak, Rubio by video, and they all endorse the ticket. Ted agrees to endorse the ticket, and then he knifes Donald Trump in the back like a Brutus.
Ted Cruz is dishonored.
Trump was magnanimous to even invite him. So he's double dealt. Now Ted Cruz is the Nelson Rockefeller Republican Party. He's the guy who walked away when we were...
Ted Cruz is dishonor in the dictionary.
He thinks he's going to come back and scoop up the marbles? Not a chance. The Trump people aren't going away. After 8 years of a Trump presidency, Ted will be too old to be president anyway. So, and he would be negated by the conservatives. Just as they remember Rockefeller doing this to Goldwater, which lost him the 68 nomination, which forced him from the...
No, I agree. Why did he destroy himself? I want to go to more calls.
He's a pariah with the conservatives I speak to.
Why did he destroy himself and become the definition of dishonor?
We lose our feet here?
Yeah, I think I've lost audio. That's why he couldn't hear me. Roger, can you hear me? All right, we'll go to another call here. Frank in New York. Frank, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Michael.
God bless you, Alex and Roger Stone. You guys are true patriot.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. Is Mr. Stone there? Is there audio there?
I believe. Do we have Stone's audio back, guys? We're trying to fix it, but go ahead and make your point. We're running out of time here. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay, I have a question real quick. Let's say if Mr. Trump is headed by 10-15 points by October, do you think that they will enact Presidential Directive 51 in suspending elections? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think they could activate the whole communist movement, the Black Lives Matter. Who would ever think the president, when the cops get shot, would say, the police need to reform, it's their fault? Clearly, they're looking at this and beta testing some type of civil uprising as a smoke screen. We're trying to get the audio to Stone. Stone, did you hear that? All right, well, we had a lot. Oh, he did hear? Well, let's put him back on air then. Go ahead, Roger. Did you hear his concern about martial law or civil emergency?
I missed that part, so go ahead.
A lot of people are concerned about martial law. Move to martial law, civil emergency is another way.
I think it is unlikely. Let me tell you why. I think they understand, as much as they are morally capable of that it would not pass muster neither internationally nor locally. That you would literally have an armed insurrection against the government. So what is far more like, now that Scalia has been taken care of, is to steal this election, understanding that Trump has the gumption to fight right to the bitter end over the legitimacy of it. His lawsuits end up going to the Supreme Court, and they try to steal it there. You'll still have, the illegitimacy, and Trump will not stop fighting that. But that's a more likely scenario. Fix it in the Supreme Court. It's outrageous because the steal will be audacious. But I think that's more likely than martial law that just allows Barack Obama to remain president without an election. You could never sell that internationally.
Sure, I agree. But they could have a civil emergency riots to make it all racial right before the election as a distraction. But that would actually only help Trump because he'd point out what they were doing.
Well, exactly. They leave their fingerprints every place. So they can put up a phony series of riots. They'll get caught. I mean, they advertise on Craigslist for demonstrators.
You're right. Frank, great question. Thank you. Another question on martial law, real fast. Chris in Georgia, you're on the air with Roger Stone of StoneZone.com.
Yes, hello, Alice. How are you?
Great, brother. Go ahead.
Yes, what I was basically going to say about martial law is Obama knows damn well if he declares martial law that it's going to backfire 100%. He knows there are more people and patriots informed than the entire military. And if he declares martial law, he may have to move overseas because we're going to take over the White House. That's basically what could happen.
Listen, I agree, and I don't say this with pleasure because I'm scared of stuff like this, but the military and police are totally awake, and that's the good news here. If the globalists try some hanky-panky, they're in trouble. Thank you so much, Chris. Roger Stone?
Yeah, I kind of agree that you could have a scenario in which the average police officer is conflicted about where his loyalties are. I wouldn't assume... Because, see, they can only use the police state to try to close down a widespread protest, civil disobedience, and, God forbid, violence.
But if they steal the election and people are protesting against cop killers, are the cops going to... No, they're going to stand down.
Exactly. Well, I think some of them will stand with the revolutionaries like us. These are patriotic Americans. The people who are the police officers in this country, by and large, they believe in playing by the rules.
And the globalists have taken... our restraint is weakness. They don't understand. We're restrained because we're peaceful people, but you can't push too far.
Well, their biggest problem, of course, is that they don't like guns. They don't like to own them. It's okay for the police to have them. Let's face it, those on the right exercise their Second Amendment rights, and therefore they see that as armed people out there who will fight an illegitimate effort to steal the country. That's why they're always trying to disarm us by various chicanery.
That's right. They know about our checkmate. Chris in Indiana, you're on the air with Roger Stone and Alex Jones. Chris, you've got a point about closeted Trump supporters. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Hey, Roger. Yeah, first of all, I'm looking forward. I got a free book from you for ordering from the big sale you had from Roger Stone, the Clinton's War on Women, and I'm looking forward to reading the details on the why Webster Hubbell's the real father of Chelsea.
Boy, that's her dad. She looks just like him.
Well, there's no question about it. So I tweeted the other night, Webster Hubbell's daughter, Chelsea Clinton, knocks it out of the park at Democratic convention. Ivanka Trump, she is not. So it is, it's a minor point. But all it shows you is how dysfunctional and completely wanton the Clintons are.
It's all fake. It's all a fraud. So
right, the whole marriage.
Hillary is the rape beard for Clinton. But Chris, what's your point about closeted Trump supporters?
Well, hey, I was at a South Bend Cubs game the other day. It's a minor league for a Cubs affiliate here in South Bend, Indiana, and I was walking around with a Trump shirt. I went to another one with a Hillary for prison shirt. I was getting high fives and stuff from people. I actually sat down, and by the way, my parents, who are Trump supporters too, didn't even want to be seen with me with the Hillary for prison shirt. It's that shameful for them.
Oh my gosh!
But anyway, I went and sat down, and about 3 rows up from me, there was a family and a trendy liberal girl that's probably like 20 years old looks back and she's like, "Oh, I like your shirt," and I like spread it out, and she's like, because she didn't see for prison. She's like, "Oh, never mind, I don't like your shirt." But then her parents like waved back and put their hands over their mouth, and they're like, "Oh, we agree with your shirt. Don't mind her."
I hear you. We're out of time. Sorry, the other callers, Brian, Mark, Richard, and others. I'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central. Roger Stone, thank you so much for all you're doing. It's just so great to know you. You're such a smart guy, funny guy. We love you. Keep up the good work, and thank you for all your analysis here on air.
Alex, victory or death?
Patrick Henry, victory or death? Absolutely. Or Colonel Travis, victory or death?
In 1969, Bill Clinton was expelled from Oxford for raping 19-year-old Eileen Wellstone. Read about this and every one of his crimes against women. The Clintons' War on Women. In stores now.
I got so busy fighting the globalists for 15 years, I turned into a giant fat slob when I was an exercise fanatic before. Now, in the last 5 years, I set out to try to get back in shape. And to help turbocharge that, I talked to top scientists and nutraceutical developers and said, I want something that blocks these estrogen mimickers, something that helps me get back to what a real male was like instead of this globalist bombardment. And we developed Super Male and Super Female Vitality. They're bestsellers. They're loved across the industry. They're amazing. You owe it to yourself to get a bottle of Super Male Vitality today at InfoWarsStore.com. Folks, it's so amazing what Mother Nature gave us. You're crazy if you don't at least try a bottle of this, because you can't lose. You're funding the info war and the fight for freedom worldwide, while at the same time getting a game-changing supplement at InfoWarsStore.com. Super Male Vitality is now back in stock. It's been sold out for several months, and it's available at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.